Hello chess fans and welcome to Chess 5, and today I'm going to show you a very interesting game between Abhimanyu Mishra versus Harikrishna Pentala. Harikrishna Pentala is Grandmaster India number 3 and currently world number 21, so obviously he plays very powerful chess. And if I talk about Abhimanyu Mishra, he's 13 years old and he had just recently just break the record of the youngest Grandmaster in the history of chess. Yeah, before him, the youngest Grandmaster in the history of chess was Sergei Karyakin, but now he break the record and he's now the youngest Grandmaster in the history of chess. So obviously, the game is going to be very interesting. It's the game between Abhimanyu Mishra versus Harikrishna Pentala, and the game is from the Champions Chess to Chessable Masters, and the game was played yesterday, and the game is from the round number 14. So definitely a young boy, 13 years old boy versus a very experienced player, world number 21. Game is going to be awesome. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching Chess 5. So Abhimanyu Mishra with the white pieces and Harikrishna Pentala with the black pieces. So let's see what happened in the game. So Abhimanyu Mishra with the white pieces started with 1d4 and Harikrishna Pentala with the black pieces replied with d6. So perhaps we are going to see King's Indian defense. So after d6 we have knight to f3, knight to f6, and now we have c4 by white. So Harikrishna now played g6, and now we are in the King's Indian defense variation. Now the idea of black is to play bishop g7, castle, and this is the idea. So after g6 we have knight to c3 by white. Nothing special, just simply developing the pieces. Now we have bishop to f5 by black. At the place of bishop f5, black usually plays bishop g7 in this position, but okay, bishop f5, something new. Bishop f5, we have d5 by Abhimanyu Mishra, completely fine move. The idea of playing d5 here white is grabbing more space on the center. And if I talk about bishop f5, the reason bishop f5 was played in the position at the place of bishop g7 here is, after playing bishop f5, black is usually stopping this e4 idea, because now the knight and the bishop is covering the square on e4. So that was the idea of playing bishop f5. After d5, white is grabbing more space in the center, not something new. We have bishop g7 by black, knight to d4 by white, centralizing the knight and also planning to hit the bishop on f5. So we have bishop to d7 by black. And now we have e4 by white, so white is having a very nice center, completely fine center. And okay, both the sides are doing their job. We have castle by black, bishop to e2 by white, c5 by black, trying to open up the position. Your white is having choice. He can capture up the pawn by doing n pass it, or he can move the knight from the d4 square. So we have knight to f3 by white. White simply move the knight back. We have e6 by black, so black is trying to open up the position. We have castle by white, so white is saying, okay, I'm not going to do anything, I'm waiting for your reply. So after castle we have e into d5, e into d5, and now we have a6 by black. So perhaps the idea of black here black wants to play b5 at some point and try to open up the position. So after a6 we have bishop to f4 by white, developing the piece and also hitting the pawn on d6. So black simply played bishop g4. Now the queen on d8 is protecting the pawn on d6. The bishop is also placed in a very nice square, and perhaps there could be some plan to develop the knight from the b8 square to d7 and then perhaps play b5 in the future. So after bishop g4 we have queen d2 by white. Perhaps the idea is to play bishop h6 to hit the very powerful bishop of black. We have rook e8 by black, h3 by white, asking the bishop on g4 whether he wants to grab the knight on f3 or whether he wants to play bishop f4 or perhaps bishop g7. So we have bishop into f3, captured up the knight, bishop into f3, queen to c7. So definitely now black wants to play knight d7, followed by rook b8 and b5, trying to open up the position. So after playing queen c7 we have rook to e1 by white. So after playing rook e1 we can see white has successfully got all his pieces into the play and white is perfect. After playing rook e1, we have knight to d7 by black. g4 by white. So okay, g4 is very attacking aggressive move from the white side, and after playing g4 we can say that Abhimanyu Mishra is getting ready to attack the black king. Okay, so after g4 we have knight to f8 by Harikrishna Pentala, saying okay, I'm not going to do anything, I'm just focusing on my development. Let's see what you are going to do with g4. So after knight f8 we have b3 by white. First just completely developing the position. There should be no weaknesses in the position, that's why b3 was played. We have knight to d7 by black, so perhaps now the bishop on g7 is very powerful bishop, and perhaps there could be some ideas to play f5 in the future. So we have g5 by white, saying okay, stopping all the counter plays. We have f5 by black. We have n passing, g into f6, knight into f6, bishop g4 by white. So white is asking black that whether he wants to capture the bishop on g4 or not. So okay, black simply captured the bishop. We have h into g4, queen to d7, planning to hit the pawn on g4. So we have f3 by white, h5 by black. So the idea of playing h5 in this position here is definitely black is saying okay, I'm going to make your king weak on g1, but as well as making the white king weak on g1, now the black king on g8 is also weak. So this is the point. And after h5 the black is definitely putting pressure on the pawn on g4. So after h5 we have g into h5. Now we have bishop to d4 check by black, which was a mistake by Harikrishna Pentala. At the place of playing bishop d4 check, a much better move in this position could be to play queen to h3. The reason queen h3 was better in this position here is here now black is threatening a very deadly threat, which is bishop d4 check. So the best to play after queen h3 for white is to play knight e4. We have bishop d5, bishop d4 check. White have to play rook f2 because the king is having no space to go. So we have knight to d7. So white captures up the pawn on d6. We have queen into f3, capturing up the pawn, and here white cannot capture up the queen because the rook is pinned. So now we have queen into d4, capturing up the bishop. So first of all, black cannot capture up the queen because the queen is hanging on f3 for black as well. So after queen into d4, first we have queen g4 check. We have rook g2, queen into g2, capturing up the rook, and after king into g2, c into d4, white is going to push the pawn on h6, and after king h7, white is slightly better, but definitely it's a playable position for black. But at the place of playing queen h3, we have bishop d4 check by black, which was a mistake. Now white is the one who is better in this position, because now comes king to g2 by white. After playing king g2, now white have stopped queen h3 idea. So we have g into h5, knight to e4, we have knight to g6, bishop to g3 by white. At the place of playing bishop g3, white should have played king to h2 in this position, because after playing king h2 there's a deadly move. What white is planning here is, here white wants to play rook g1, and white doesn't care. He can give an exchange sacrifice, but the rook on g1 is going to be super dangerous for black. This is the point. But okay, he played bishop g3, which is also a fine move. He's protecting the king on g2. Now we have queen g7. At the place of playing queen g7 in this position, black should have played rook to e7, and after playing rook e7, white is going to play queen into d4, capturing up the bishop. Black have to capture it back, and now we have knight f6 check, king move to f7, knight into d7, capturing up the queen, rook into d7, and after rook into d7, all the white is better in this position after playing something like rook e4 or even rook e6 is also fine. But it's at least playable position for black. But at the place of playing rook e7, we have queen g7, which was a mistake, because now comes queen to g5 by white, rook f8, king h1, knight to e5 by black. So now we have a queen trade. Knight into d6, capturing of the pawn. Knight into f3, black also captured of the pawn as well. We have rook e7 check, king g6, rook to e6 check, king to g7. So perhaps Harikrishna is satisfied with a draw. But is Abhimanyu Mishra satisfied with a draw? No, we have king to g2. So Abhimanyu is definitely going for a win. We have king g2 and now we have h4 by black. So idea is to capture up the bishop on g3. So first we have rook e7 check, king g6, bishop comes back to e1. We have knight into e1 check, rook into e1, b5 trying to open up the position. We have first rook e6 check, king h5, and now we have knight f5 by white, which was a mistake. At the place of playing knight f5 in this position, white should have played knight f2 in this position. The reason knight f7 is much better than knight f5, yes, because now comes the deadly threat by white. White wants to play rook f5 check, so black king is forced to go to g4, and now comes mate in 1. Can you find it? Yes, knight h6, and it's a checkmate. Knight attacks the king on g4 as well as protects the rook on f5, and black king is having no space from g4 to go. It's completely checkmate. But still, black can play rook g8 check, and after king h2, okay, but still white is slightly better, and it's a completely playable position for white. But after knight f7, at the place of knight f7, we have knight f5 by white, which equalizes the position. After knight f5, we have first king g5 by black, knight e3. Now we have a pawn trade. Now we have rook into f1, capturing up the rook, knight into f1, rook f8, knight to h2, rook f2 check, king h3, king f5. We have rook e8, rook capture of the pawn on a2. We have knight g4, and now we have rook to c2 by black, which was a blunder in this position. At the place of playing rook c2, a much better move in this position could have been to play rook to b2 in this position. The reason after rook b2, white is going to push d6, but now black is going to play rook b7, stopping this d7 idea. So white is going to play rook e7, saying okay, I'm still going to push the pawn. So black is simply going to step back with a rook by playing rook b6. We have d7. Now we have rook to d6 by black. So there is no way after playing rook d6, white is going to make a queen on d8. There is no way. White rook cannot move from the 7th rank because the pawn is hanging on d7, and there is no way white knight can join in the making a queen to d8. So it's a draw. But at the place of playing rook b2, we have rook to c2 by Harikrishna Pentala. We have d6 by white. Now white is going to push the pawn. We have rook c3 check, king capture up the pawn on h4. We have rook into c4, and now white have to play king h5, which is a very key moment. White cannot push the pawn to d7 in this situation, because now comes the very deadly move and the only move by which black is going to win, which is bishop to f6 check. And after playing bishop f6 check, knight cannot capture up the the knight cannot capture the bishop on f6 because knight is pinned. So white is going to white have to play king h3, and here black is going to simply capture up the knight. And if white tries to make a queen on d8, then black is simply going to capture the queen back, and after rook into d8, black is having 2 pawns and it's winning position for black. This is the point that d7 cannot be played in this position. So Abhimanyu Mishra obviously knew that, so he moved the king first by playing king h5. We have rook c1 by black, knight to h6 check, king f4, rook f8 check, king e4, and now white pushes the pawn to d7, and it's completely winning position for white. It's a one move queen. First we have rook h1 check, king g4. White is saying okay, you can grab my knight on h6, I'm going to simply make a queen. How's the deal? So obviously Harikrishna Pentala is not going to capture up the knight. So first he gave a check to g1, and now we have king h3 by white, which was a blunder in this position. The only move for white to survive in this position is to play king h5. The reason king h3 is a blunder and king h5 is the winning move is because after playing king h5, in the game we have king h3, but king h5 is winning because after playing king h5, if black tries to play bishop f6, which is the main move, here white have to capture up the bishop. We have rook to d1, stopping this pawn to make a queen. We have first rook e6 check, the main move in the key position. We have king f4, and now we have rook e7, protecting up the pawn. We have, if black tries to push the pawn on to c4, trying to make a queen. We have knight g4. If we have c3, we have first rook f7 check, the key moment. King goes to g3. The king cannot go to another place to e4 because knight f2 loses the rook on d1. That's why after king g3 we have first knight e3, attacking the rook on d1. So rook have to move. We have rook d3. We have king to g6 by white. Black rook cannot capture up the knight because white can make a queen. So if black tries to play a5, trying to make a queen on the a5, now we have first king f5 by white. We have a4 by black, king to e4 by white, attacking the rook. Now black pushes up the pawn to c2. Some hope that white will capture up the rook and he will make a queen. Obviously not. White is going to capture up the pawn on c2. After playing rook d6, we have king to e5 by white, attacking the rook. And if white plays rook d2, we have knight to d4 by white. And after knight d4, it's completely winning. Now the connection between rook and the pawn is over, and white is simply going to make a queen on d8, and it's completely winning position for white. That is the reason after king h5 was winning, but at the place of king h5 we have king h3 by white, which equalizes the position. So I want after king h3 there is the only single move for black which equalizes the position, and black is having some chances to draw the game. That's the only single move. So feel free to pause the video and try to find the best move for black in this position. There's the only single move, remember. So okay, so all of those who have found bishop to f6 in this position, congratulations, this is the only move, and Harikrishna found the move. Awesome, really awesome. The reason after bishop f6 is the only move here is the bishop on f6 is stopping this d8 queen, so white have to capture the bishop. White is having no other choice. Now comes rook d1 by black, attacking the pawn on d7. So white played rook to f7, which is the most natural move. And the reason I was saying that king h5 was winning at the place of king h3 here is, now if still white is give a check to black king by playing rook e6, now black can play king to f4, and after king f4, if white tries to defend, now black can come up with his king by playing king g5, and he can come in by playing king f6 followed by king e6 and grab the pawn on d7, and it would be a draw. And if at the place of king on h3, if the king would be on h5, then the black king cannot enter on g5. That is the reason king h5 was winning at the place of king h3. But okay, after rook e6 was not played, we have rook f7, and after rook f7, Harikrishna Pentala played c4, which was a blunder again. At the place of playing c4, black should have played king to e5. Now after king e5 is a drawish game, because the idea of black is to play king e6, come up with this king, and simply capture up the pawn on d7, and it's a draw. But okay, after king e5, we have rook e7 check, king f6, knight g8 check, and after king g6, there is no way for white to make any progress, and it's a draw. White cannot make a queen because rook will simply capture it, and if white tries to move the knight, I'm going to play king f6, going to threaten the rook. This is the idea. That is why king e5 would be a draw, but we have c4 by Harikrishna, which was the last blunder in the game, because now Abhimanyu Mishra is not going to leave the game. First we have rook e7 check, king f3, knight g4. Black tries his last hope by pushing up the pawn to c3. We have rook f7 check, king e2, rook e7 check, king f3, knight to e5 check, king f4, and now we have rook to e8 by white. Knight protects the pawn on d7, so the rook cannot capture the pawn, and now white is getting ready to make a queen. So black also pushed the pawn to c2. Now we have queen by white. First we have rook h1 check by black. If black tries to make a queen by playing c1 queen, it's mate in 3 for black, because black king is vulnerable and white who is going to mate the black king. First we have knight g6 check by white. So black king is having 2 squares. He can go king f5 or king f3. It doesn't matter if black plays king f5. We have knight to h4 check, and black is having only single square to go on king to f4. But now we have, sorry about that, it's losing. We have queen f6, and it's game over for black. It's a checkmate. So this was the reason black cannot make a queen directly. So first we have rook h1 check by black. We have king g2. Now we have rook g1 by black, Harikrishna. The reason of rook g1 check is played here. Here black is trying his last hope that white will capture the rook and he will make a queen on c1 with a check. But okay, white can capture up the rook and it's winning still. But okay, Abhimanyu first played king f2, rook f1 check, king e2, rook e1 check, and this is the reason he didn't capture the rook directly. He first bring the king near to the queen so that the king can come to defend the king. So after playing rook e1 check, we have king into e1, and now black made the queen. We have queen d1, and after playing queen e3 check, queen e2, queen c1 check, and after playing king f2 on the move number 70, Harikrishna Pentala with the black pieces resigned the game, and Abhimanyu Mishra with the white pieces won the game. Excellent victory for the young boy Abhimanyu Mishra. He just beat world number 21 Harikrishna Pentala, world India number 3. Great game by both the players, but there were many blunders by both the players. But it was a very fascinating game and a very excellent game by both the players. So if you guys like the game, then you can like to my video. If you are new to my channel, then you can subscribe to my channel. I will come up with these new videos for you. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching chess fights.